Okay, so look, I know all the rage is intermittent fasting. There's 1,500,000, wait, let me check. 1,500,000, I was right, videos on YouTube about intermittent fasting. So look at them, it's fine. I'm not gonna get too deep in the rabbit hole of ketogenesis and the effects on the immune system and everything else of intermittent fasting. I'm a fan, I've been doing it for a couple of years, so most days, but I'm not gonna get too deep on that because I have my own take on intermittent fasting, and so I wanted to do a video on that just to show you where I stand on it. But please watch to the very end because I have a whole nother thing about intermittent fasting that I don't think anybody's talking about, and I think is even potentially more relevant than what you might think of as intermittent fasting. Am I being cryptic enough? Oops. In general, intermittent fasting in the food realm, more on that in a second, is basically squeezing your intake time to a certain fixed amount during the day. Most studies are showing 8 to 9 hour window is optimal, but it's not 8 to 9 hours whenever, it's 8 to 9 hours in the daytime, essentially. To simplify it for you so that you don't get all crazy with over information that you don't need, it falls very nicely and neatly into what I titled my first book, which is called Approaching the Natural. Intermittent fasting approaches a more natural food intake model for our species, which is this simply: eat during the day, sleep at night. That's it. Eat during the day, sleep at night. During the day, our bodies are more tuned, even on a bacterial level in our guts, to bringing in food. And when it's dark and we're asleep, we don't eat, and our body does other stuff. Different bacteria are more active and things like that. It's a more natural way to eat. Nowadays, with fake lighting and artificial lighting, we can start eating at 6 in the morning, right when we get up, and we can eat until 9, 10 o'clock at night and get up at midnight and be hungry and go eat then too. And that causes an inefficiency in the body. So it is, and I'm a fan of it because a couple reasons. One, when you sort of, and I've talked about this before on my podcast and videos, but when you are consciously creating constraints, saying, okay, well, I'm gonna eat between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., then it kind of liberates you, as long as you don't fall into militancy about it and realize that there's gonna be some times where you can't follow that. But if you can do it most times, it's kind of liberating because you're like, I just don't eat till 10, I don't wanna think about it. And then after 6, you're like, I'm done eating. And you go on to drinking some water and having some herbal tea or something like that at the end of the night. So it's kind of liberating when you can kind of to squeeze that in. The problem is that some people fall into kind of a caloric restriction model. That's not what intermittent fasting is. Intermittent fasting is fasting intermittently. Boom, nailed. All it means is you're providing your body, if you eat in an 8-hour window, you provide your body 16 hours of not eating. That's a long and substantial time for the body to do its business and to do it well, to take care of the business, repairing and house cleaning and organizing. It's taking a break from just feeding and storing into utilizing more efficiently, and again, all the business of the body. That's why intermittent fasting it works so well, and that's why I'm a fan. But don't overthink it. Eat during the day in a little kind of cute little window there, and don't eat outside that window. Boom, move on with your life, have fun. But here's the thing. And this is not what you're gonna see in anywhere else, or not that often. I'm also a fan of intermittent fasting for what I call mental nutrition. So I split up nutrition into 2 parts. Physical nutrition, what we feed our bodies, food. Mental nutrition, what we put in our heads. News, social media, books, movies, conversations, music, podcast. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. I am saying, and I address this in my new book coming up, 6 Truths, boom. There are healthy versions of mental nutrition and unhealthy versions of mental nutrition, just like there's healthy versions of physical nutrition and unhealthy versions of physical nutrition as well. Again, I'm not saying not to do the unhealthy, but when you recognize which is healthy and which is not, then you can sort of hit a balance that works for you and delivers you the health and happiness that you like, to say, okay, I want this much healthy physical and mental nutrition and a little bit, a significantly less amount of the non-healthy that's more of treat stuff. And then that's a kind of a decent balance for me. And my job is to help people find out for themselves what works for them given their lives. But when it comes back to intermittent fasting, here's the thing. This is to me more important than even the physical nutrition food side of intermittent fasting. It's intermittent fasting as it applies to mental nutrition. Taking a break from stuffing stuff in our heads also has really profoundly beneficial effects on our well-being, health, and happiness, our stress levels. In other words, if we are constantly stuffing things in our heads, mental nutrition, we're also never able to process that stuff. We're never able to utilize that stuff. We're never able to take a break from it to think about that stuff. If we're on social media all the time, from the moment we wake up, we check our email, we're on social media, we're on the news. All day, we're bringing things in the car, we're listening to news, we're listening to a podcast, we're listening to whatever, and on the way, and then at work, we're obviously doing our things, and then at night we come home and we watch TV and we watch movies, and then we get in bed and we do social media, and then we watch movies, and then we go to bed, boom. And we never have a break to process the stuff that's we've stuck in our heads. And so just likewise with physical nutrition and intermittent fasting, I think it is super helpful to set intentional and conscious constraints on when you're putting things in, and to build in breaks for when you're not putting things in, when you are free from things that you are consciously putting in. It doesn't have to be silence. You don't have to be sitting in a quiet room or on some mountaintop in the Himalayas. It's just, are you on purpose shoving stuff in your head, or are you taking a break from that? And I think that the reason intermittent fasting works on the physical and mental nutrition side, if you partake in it, is because you are providing your body and mind breaks. You're providing them downtime to recover and utilize the nutrition, mental or physical, in a way that works, in organizing on the mind side and the physical side, house cleaning on the mind side and the physical side. We are stuffing in the modern world. We have too much access to too much stuff. And it is upon us, if we want to be healthy and happy, to stop and take breaks from these things to allow a little bit of downtime for that necessary recovery. So that's my take on intermittent fasting. Again, super helpful. You do not have to go down the rabbit hole of learning all the mechanics. It's interesting for me because I'm a nerd that way, because it's my job. But for the regular non-nutritional, non-health coach, just living a life like I am when I'm not working, I don't really measure stuff, count, weigh stuff. I want to just take breaks from feeding myself food and take breaks from feeding my mind food, and so that I have downtime breaks that I can utilize that information and do what I need to do with it to be lower stress overall. Okay, so that's my take. That's my take on intermittent fasting. That is my take on intermittent fasting. Physical nutrition, mental nutrition. Okay? Okay. Okay, thanks. Yeah, okay.